if you're using the tone of the paper to create value, like in this example right here, you're going to want to make sure that you're matching your values from your photo as carefully as possible. You don't want the skin to feel like it's a ghost where it's too light, so you're going to want to think about where you need to leave the gray and then where you want to start adding the black. So for skin tone, you're probably going to mostly be using your white pencil, especially for this technique. If you use the soft pastel, it's going to really cover up the surface. So we're going to start towards the top, and one of the things that you can do is sort of plot in where your highlights are going to be. So I started up here, right, and I shaded with the contours. So his forehead is going this way, so I'm shading with that direction. And then when I was doing his nose, I was using little short rounded marks so that I could get that to look more rounded rather than using a straight line. The nice thing about this board is that you really can, right, sometimes not follow the contours specifically, and it will still look relatively 3D, but I would keep you still in that practice of shading with the contours, right? So to make this look more 3D, I'm going to fill in the tooth, right? Use the tip of the pencil to bring out the lightest part of his nose, right? Look and see. I kind of put in some base value and then go in and tweak and add the areas that are a little bit brighter than other parts, right? And then hold the pencil back a little bit farther when I want it to get a little darker so that I can get that pencil, or that paper to show, right? So I have to decide if I'm going to start adding black here, and so I think I'm going to need to. So you can put in your darkest value first. So like when we did the sphere, remember that we put in the highlight first, and then we put in the shadow. And so here, I probably want to start really light, holding it back rather loose, far back rather than tight, right? And add just a little bit at a time, trying to match up, but not make gray. I want to leave the gray of the paper. Right, so I'm barely touching the surface, and then I can go back in and try to get those gradual transitions, pull out the places where it's a little bit darker. But remember, with this technique, I am not smudging, I'm not using the blending stump, I'm just using pencil control to try to make his nose look 3D, okay? I don't want you worrying about details yet. So, right now I have the dark line for where the eyelashes are going to be, but I'm going to want to put the eyelashes on top of his eye later. So put your base value down first. So I'm going to put his eyelashes in, right? And then I can go in and put in some more specific detail, right? Make sure there's variation. We don't want it to look flat. I think I'm going to have to pull this out just a little bit more gradual. Or let's say I pulled it out too far, I can always use the kneaded eraser to lighten it up a little bit. Or use my good eraser, as long as there's not a lot of charcoal left there, to kind of go back in and add more of the white on top. But I don't want to smudge. I don't want to use the two together to make gray. Instead, I want the paper to show as the gray. Okay, so I'm not completely done with this, but it's almost there, right? It's getting there. He's starting to look like my son, and he's starting to look 3D.